Sidelines with Rob Browne. Talk sporty to me.
Hey, Rob Browne here with you on this Tuesday. A lot going on in the college football world today. Broadcasting live from Red River Ford Toyota Studios in Wynne, Arkansas. Beautiful sunny day, and it is full harvest moon, by the way. I'm sure everybody sees it out there right now. And they are harvesting cotton, corn, milo, rice, beans. So you name it, they are doing it. And they're driving around all over, working about 18 hours a day. It's a great time of year going into week 7 of college football season. Jimmy Hodge up in Knoxville. Audrey and I here in the studio, my producer. We've got Doug Dean joining us here in just a second from the AU Dose in Birmingham. Lots to talk about, lots of stuff flying around about Auburn, all these different jobs. I mean, there have been 3 or 4 coaches already walked the Green Mile this year. Gordon Ford, I had a little trouble yesterday with him with the call yesterday. He's going to be back on with us later in the week. I know he gets especially excited about, Thanksgiving, Christmas, all the holidays, and firings. Man, he gets there's several of those that are on the way, and Gordon is he's got his list of guys he thinks will not make it. Hey, let's be honest. It's really hard to feel sorry for a coach that's going to get $15.3 million. Anyone who's ever lost a job, please text me, 901-413-2708. If you've ever been given $15.3 million for doing a terrible job and then you were fired and you got $15.3 million. And that's just coaches. I mean, you look at coaches like Mel Tucker, $95 million contract, Michigan State. Whoa. And, and his annual tradition, Jimmy Hodge, Michigan State was just pounded by Ohio State. That's kind of a new ritual. Let's give Mel Tucker the big contract, and we'll get obliterated. We'll be with you the next 2 hours. Doug Dean again with us. Jimmy Hodge will be joined also in hour number 2 by the Iron Duke, Franz Beard, GatorBaitMedia.com, all things Gators, SEC, college football. And in the 4th segment, Rodney or Tyler Insider. Give us a follow on Twitter at Sidelines_live and subscribe to the Patreon page on the www.sidelines.live website. We love your support. We're growing this show. We'll be going up to Knoxville this weekend for number 3 Alabama, number 6 Tennessee. That will be on the Color TV, SEC Nation, ESPN Game Day, CBS. It's Ed Sullivan would say, Jimmy and Doug, a really big shoe. So it'll be a lot of fun. Doug, I guess you've recovered from celebrating Happy Columbus Day yesterday, and Jimmy was exhausted, the parade and all there was going on, all the festivities. And then there's Auburn football. But anyway, next, let's see. Let's talk about it. The takeaway from 42-10 Georgia. Worst beating, well, I guess 2012 was 38-0 was pretty bad. But Georgia covered. What were the takeaways, and where does Auburn go from here?
Well, you read my newsletter yesterday. First of all, hey.
Some of the best Jimmy. Ever, by the way.
Thank you, Jimmy. And I came as close as I ever have to calling for a firing. But
it was
hey, Jimmy and Audrey, who have to feel the hair on their neck raising just a little bit this game week, and that'll be fun next Monday. No matter what happens, we need to get Audrey to banter with Jimmy and talk about how that one goes. And I digress. I'm just trying to use a diversionary tactic to waste as many minutes as possible, not having to talk about the Auburn Tigers. This Auburn football segment, Rob and Jimmy, is brought to you by Prozac. The side effects that Auburn fans can relate to: anxiety, nervousness, insomnia, tremor, nausea, vasodilation, dry mouth. This is probably what some of Vol and even a few Bama fans are feeling. This is not the Tennessee team of the last 10 years or so. At least they don't look that way. Decreased libido, Rob. Anyway,
a lot of things.
It's just tough times. And, I've said before that the last, really since Coach Dye, you could argue. And I for one tip my hat to overall to the coaching tenure of Tommy Tuberville, but he had the same problem. It's what I call a standard deviation problem. Great programs, a bad year gets defined as 2 or 3 losses. No one loses faith that you've quit playing football, especially recruits. In the case of Auburn, you span the last 20 years, and my goodness, there have been a couple or 3 mountaintops. If you count 2004, and why shouldn't you? My God, you go undefeated in the SEC any year, even if some of the big rivals are a little bit down, it still counts. And then obviously 2010, 2013. So it really was not, historically speaking, that long ago that Auburn was playing at the most elite level and getting to the mountaintop in 2010. Should have gotten there, a play or two made against FSU in 2013, or actually January 2014. That was a great setting out in Pasadena. So the problem with that is you sprinkle in there a 3-9 year in Chiswick's last year in 2012, and then what we're going through really last year. I think most Auburn fans were giving Harsin a mulligan for restocking talent. It was in the wake of a pandemic year, not to make excuses because it was a pandemic for every team, not just Auburn. But it's a fact that Auburn recruits best in person. And so I think some people understood that Harsin deserved some time, but then you finish the season with 5 straight losses. If you want to count as a moral victory, that incredible Iron Bowl, I think Auburn people were doing some of that. But this year, different ball game. And what makes it harder for Auburn people to ask to live with another year or 2 is you only need to look west of us, Rob and Jimmy, to the Magnolia State and see what historically, not to be unkind, certainly not, I don't want to anger Ole Miss fans with what we probably have in store in Oxford this Saturday, just looking at the numbers, which we'll do in a minute. But between Mike Leach and Lane Kiffin, they've got it rolling, and with arguably indisputably less resources, a little bit less brand over the years, and a little more limited recruiting base than Auburn. Kiffin didn't make excuses about, well, Gus didn't leave me any talent. He went into the portal and made smart decisions, and he's managed it brilliantly. If Ole Miss fans are tuning in, he understood that Kiffin would love to air it out and go air raid and really fling it around, but he understood that his quarterback needed some time to polish. And I predict this last half of Ole Miss's season, you'll start to see that ratio of pass and run balance out a little because the kid will be ready to go. So where we're at is Harsin's gone. It's just a matter of PR choreography now. I don't see any scenario either in wins or in decision making that Brian Harsin is back on the sidelines in Auburn next year.
Well, history is on your side in terms of being right. No Auburn coach has ever survived losing to Ole Miss in Oxford at the Vault. And Auburn didn't start playing there until 1984. And I was at that game. But no Auburn coach has survived losing to Ole Miss in Oxford and come back the following year as the head coach. 1992, Pat Dye went over there. It was ugly. And he resigned at the end of the year. 2008, Tommy Tuberville went over there, lost 17-10. He was gone at the end of that year. And Gene Chizik in 2012. And the worst job of coaching malpractice and neglect. The team quit on him. It was a complete disaster. Hugh Freeze's first year, he was not back in 2012. Brian Harsin is he's walking the green mile, as Gordon would say. Gordon is I'm curious if Friday night Brian Harsin will order a bucket of 20 pieces of chicken and eat 2 gallons of ice cream in a tub. That's what a lot of guys get before they go to the chair. I mean, this is just, to me, looking at this situation, he's getting $15.3 million for being fired, plus what he's made in his 2 years in salary. It's not like we're going to have to get a GoFundMe page, or the church ladies and the auxiliary are going to have a bake sale so we can put food on his table. I mean, but the worst part about it with Brian Harsin is he doesn't look like he's too upset about it.
Yeah,
And
to your point, and go ahead, Rod. I'm sorry.
No, it's very frustrating to see that. But but I want you to keep going, because your writing in the dose yesterday has to be among the best you've ever done. Your use of the pen is so it's wonderful to read. Great writing, true grit journalism. So carry on, man, my wayward friend.
Stop it! We're going to the land of Hemingway this Saturday, and or anyway, look. Auburn people normally, and we've got a lunatic fringe. I want to get Jimmy's take on this big picture at Auburn and what I consider a rather obvious end game for Brian Harsin coming soon. My prediction would be Ole Miss wins and covers. What is it, 14-point line, which itself, by the way, is not a happy footnote. I don't remember Auburn being that big an underdog to a Mississippi school. Again, no offense, it's just reality. In a long time, if ever.
Never.
Even on the road. So Auburn people, if we could see some element, any element, just one or two elements of the total coaching requirement, whether it's recruiting and things looking optimistic on that front, you can't check that box. We're 50th. And I see no activity of pulling us up out of that abyss. More like Harsin stand recruiting. And if you ever learn that about a coaching candidate, run the other way. I don't care how good their chops look on game day. And then in-game management, that going for that fake punt. It wasn't just going when it was a 0-0 game. We weren't going to beat Georgia, but we had Georgia a little nervous in the wake of that Mizzou 4-quarter game. So what do? Not only run it, but it's a terrible play design with a big, slow tight end needing to get that many yards. And then the demoralizer, and I'll tip my hat to Georgia on the coaching front. I don't like the rugby play, I call it, where big O lineman can shove a running back 10 yards downfield. It just doesn't look like football to me. But as long as it is a rule, Kirby Smart put a play in, or he coached the kid. If you got a running back still standing, or to all head in that direction and shove him as far as the defense and the refs will allow. And that was a demoralizer to me on that Auburn defense. There are games where I would coach my defense. This is when I'm okay with you getting a 15-yard penalty. Okay, is it just me? You got to show that you're a man and you're not just going to get shoved downfield 15 yards after you've really stopped the back in normal football. So, that's where we are. But we don't see anything that gives promise and hope to give more time to Harsin, even though admittedly 2 years is short. I'm not sure in modern football with the money these coaches make that you can afford a 5 or 6 year tenure unless there's really, evidence that it's headed in the right direction. Your thoughts on all of this big picture, Jimmy?
Well, I think it all comes down to, as I've said many, many times, how good you are at quarterback. I mean, it's just the most critical position in the game, especially when it comes to determining how effective your offense is. Because if you can't provide a vertical passing threat, or at least make the opposing defense think you have one, then they're just going to put 8 guys in the box and really cheat the other 3 up close, even though they'll be playing man coverage on the receivers. But if they notice peripherally that it's a running play, they're going to run in there too and try to help on, any kind of pre-designed running play, certainly to a running back, and it really makes it tough to run the football. And so we saw what happened last week in just the SEC. What happens when your starting quarterback is not available? It wasn't a good result at Alabama, Arkansas, Kentucky. You find teams that have a hard time making first downs. And and last year, we know how critical injuries were in determining the national championship. I mean, in the national championship game between and the rematch between Georgia and Bama, Alabama started 9 of the 22 players that started the season opener against Miami. I mean, that is a tough way to go, and you just got to figure a way out to, to find guys and evaluate guys in practice that are making progress, and maybe they can come into a game and make a big contribution. But that's why all these programs, especially in the SEC, they're recruiting 6 and 7 running backs. They're trying to recruit 3 or 4 quarterbacks. They're trying to recruit as much depth as they can at every position, because you have no way of knowing, again, which players are going to get injured, at what positions, and for how long they're going to be out. And that is the one part of football that, even though these Vegas people are great at setting point spreads, it's really tough to determine who's going to get injured and who you're going to have to rely on later in the season.
And to your point, I didn't see that. Sorry if I walked on you, Rob. I didn't see that close game, Alabama and the Egg. I drank the Kool-Aid too, and we'll get back to Auburn. I want to cover just a few numbers, stats going into. I'm not stat tiger, but I can read going
do
into.
This, Doug. Hold these thoughts.
Break.
We'll take a break, and I want to come back with you because I've got some stuff that I want you to say what you're going to say, but we're going to cover it because Stat Tiger put some great stuff out over the weekend, as he always does, Stuart Carter, and it just lays the case for there's no way you keep this guy. I mean, and Kevin Skarbinski, I mean, he is on fire with the pen. What he wrote, Helpless with Harsin. I mean, it sounds like a letter to Dear Abby. I mean, it really does. But okay, we're gonna Dear Auburn, please somebody listen. Anyway, we're gonna take a quick break. Be right back. Browne with Jimmy Hodge on Sidelines.
Red River Ford and Toyota, located in Wynne, Arkansas. If you're in the market for a new or used car, truck, or SUV, call, go online, or drop by and see them. Located 45 minutes from Memphis, go off the 4-city exit on I-40 and go north about 15 minutes on Highway 1. Easy to work with and still believe in customer service. If you live out of town, they will deliver your vehicle to you. RedRiverFordToyota.com. Just see what they can do.
Strengthen your seed zone this spring with quality tillage equipment from House Industries. Located in Cherry Valley, Arkansas, House Industries specializes in manufacturing superior equipment that will minimize your downtime and keep you working in the field. To ensure the highest quality control, all design, fabrication, and testing takes place in a 99,000 square foot manufacturing facility located right here in the heart of the Delta. Locate your nearest House equipment dealer online at houseindustriesinc.com.
House Industries, breaking ground.
Sidelines with Rob Browne. Talk sporty to me.
All right, Rob Browne back here with Doug Dean, the AUS in Birmingham, and Jimmy Hodge. And Doug, before we went to the break, you were going to talk about some more of these stats that just really jump out at you with where Auburn is, and it can be applied to any college football team's success or lack thereof.
Yeah, and I'll sprinkle in it with apologies to my segment, Prozac sponsored segment on the Auburn Tigers. I did want to footnote because I haven't heard it mentioned on that incredible and exciting Alabama Texas A&M game. To me, what still wins most football games is blocking and tackling. And what I saw that gave the Aggies a chance and give their coaching staff credit, give Alabama credit for keeping composure and finding a way in the end. That's what they do time and again. But the Aggies made tackles. You know, there were at least half a dozen times it looked like Jahmyr Gibbs, that incredible running back, was going to break one and house it. There was another time the Milroe looked like he might, but they got the angle and made a tackle, and it made all the difference in it, you know, staying in the game. Same with blocking. They somehow or another, Alabama or A&M gave that just average quarterback to throw in critical spots, able to stay in the game. So it's blocking and tackling, and we're not seeing enough of blocking, especially at Auburn. But numbers going into this Saturday, and, you know, Rob and Jimmy, as y'all know by now, most years until there's evidence to the contrary, I suffer from orange and blue glasses. You know, I'm by nature an optimist. life is too short to say, I'm sure something bad is likely to happen. And
I agree with
you. These numbers will cure you of that rosiness this particular year at Auburn. As we go into this Auburn-Ole Miss game, scoring offense, Ole Miss is 16th in the nation, even though this is not the most complete quarterback Kiffin's used to having. 16th at 39.7 points per game. Auburn 112, 20 points per game.
God.
Rushing offense. You don't think of Kiffin as running the ball. They're stationed, rushing 242 yards. Auburn 75th with these great backs we're supposed to have, 148 yards. Passing offense, Ole Miss, not surprisingly, down a little there, 66th, but that's 248 yards a game. If you can run like he is and balance it out with 200 yards in the air, they're deadly. And Auburn 97th, passing, no surprise. Third down conversions, I'll shut up in a minute. This really is in Ole Miss's favor. Ole Miss is 6th in the nation, 0.53 third down conversions. You know why they are? Guarantee you, he's staying ahead of the chains. Auburn, as the stat that really would make you want to vomit, came out on third down. Auburn is needing 8.9 yards on third down. No wonder we're 114th in the nation on third down conversions. Turnover margin, Ole Miss 57th at 0.12, but Auburn down in the valley, 128th at minus 1.5 turnover margin. And then lastly, and this is one you guys ought to watch on the Tennessee-Alabama game, fewest penalty yards allowed. Ole Miss 57th with 54, Auburn right behind them 58th. Bama, and this won't surprise you if you look back at that Texas game. Mm-hmm. It's not characteristic of a Nick Saban team, 118th in the nation at 71 penalty yards a game, but Tennessee 125th with 75. So in that game, the penalty yardage in a tight game you would expect to see might make a huge difference in who wins that one.
No, I agree. Look, here's some more things. Stat Tiger pointed something out. Whoever Auburn hires after they get rid of Harsin, it isn't going to mean a damn thing if they don't make the commitment to win. And he points out Alabama made their commitment to win in 2007 by bringing in Nick Saban. Since 2015, Alabama has signed 89 top 100 recruits in America. Okay. Georgia, since 2015, has signed 69. Auburn, since 2015, has signed 19 top 100 recruits, 3 in the last 2 years. Okay. Doesn't take a rocket scientist. It doesn't take any of us who are very intelligent, I think, to understand and do the math there. Your recruiting it's a disaster. You have to work hard to recruit this poorly, or you don't have to work very hard at all. I think it's the latter. You know, I'm in the business of managing and advising people over my career and doing this sports radio show and podcast of being a truth broker. I really don't care if you like what I say in my opinion. I mean, whether you agree with me or not, I mean, I care, but man, these guys don't get it when it comes to recruiting. And it's not, this isn't the first time this has happened. It happens at different schools. At the same time, you got to have a commitment. Remember, Alabama, 97 to 07, that 11-year period, including Nick Saban's first year, had 8 of 11 seasons where they lost 5 games or more. Then Nick Saban came in and said, I'm going to be in charge. I'm going to be the face of Alabama. Everything's going to go through me. And that's worked out well. Boosters.
The reality is there's no coach that's so good at player development that you can recruit that mediocre and hope to, if we were in a different region of the country, maybe. And that's what Brian Harsin's overconfidence was about. He thought he could bring Boise ball down here and it worked, but they were just had better talent, more 3 stars compared to 2 stars where the league Harsin was playing in. And we're playing against savages that are all 4 stars in the SEC West.
Yeah. And that's it. And people told me this early on when he first got to Auburn, that no Auburn recruiting. They said, I don't think these Boise boys have got this figured out, and either you get it or you don't. So we're seeing that. But I do think with any program, you can turn it around with the portal, with NIL if you do it right. But Doug, carry on from here. All these names that are being mentioned. Auburn's got to get an athletic director. I hope it's John Hartwell. I think he's got the most qualified, best looking resume Auburn's ever had for an athletic director. Okay.
100%.
And so you get a guy with business sense, a fundraiser, who's also going to say, hey, look at every athletic program we have. If we're not in the top 3 or 4 in the league, and in every sport, you got to start asking that coach, what are you doing? But I like that term, commitment to win. Ole Miss, Lane, I like.
It's proven in the coach that you hire. That can be Freeze, that can be Kiffin. I don't think we're the reason we won't go after Kiffin. I think Neil McCready's article is right.
Yeah, I do too.
We've got a power base that unfortunately requires a degree of control or cooperation, not renegade style that Kiffin has. At least he seems to have had to date. So, I guess the money is on Freeze. That is not without its challenges and controversy either, for obvious reasons. But I guess we need a vacancy before we can heavily talk about that. Rob, I'm going to cheat, and as a merciful act to Auburn fans, a quick footnote. I'd love Jimmy's take on this. I think this exciting 2:30 p.m. Alabama-Tennessee kickoff, that everyone will break down the numbers better than I'm equipped to do because I don't follow either team great. But it seems to me historically, this one is about faith and doubt. And what I mean by that is what is Auburn 1982. When you've had that bad a streak, can Tennessee find a way to have enough good things happen early to get some faith and not let that doubt start creeping in? And if you're Alabama, you want to strike quick early, and they're certainly equipped to do that. And if you can create some doubt on the side of Tennessee, that goes a long way toward quieting the crowd, because they're going to always have in the back of their minds how things have gone for so long. So to me, that's the real psychological intrigue in Knoxville.
I think it is. Jimmy, Tennessee, let's say this, Florida had beaten Tennessee 16 of the last 17 years. Tennessee broke that spell, first win over Florida since 2016. But, man, it went down to Florida had one last Hail Mary, still could have won. So it was in the back of their heads. It started to bother them. Mentally, Coach Hodge, what are you going to tell your Tennessee team? Hey, this is Alabama. Don't get caught up in everything they do. You still got to play the game. What's your take?
I don't think it's a lot of hard work for this Tennessee staff to get their team ready to play this game. A lot of those players, and I'm guessing most of them, and all the coaching staff got back to Knoxville in plenty of time to be able to watch that A&M game. And they saw that Alabama's vulnerable, especially if Bryce Young isn't available. And I think at the end of the day, this is what this game comes down to. Is Bryce Young going to be available to play? And if so, at 100%. If he is, I think Bama finds a way to get it done. But if he's not, I just don't see Bama coming out on the long end here, because when you turn the ball over 4 times at home and you had 2 other interceptions that were dropped, you do that on the road and that type of environment you're going to see Saturday night. I mean, it is going to be an absolute zoo. There's just no margin for error here. So I think Saban, again, is going to make it a game time decision. I'm sure they know now, after, I guess, further evaluation occurred yesterday with the medical staff and the doctors on Bryce's progress. They have a pretty good idea privately or just in the football building if he's going to play or not. And I think intentionally, it would just be crazy for Saban to make that public, because you want to make that Tennessee defensive staff have to prepare for 2 quarterbacks. Because if you got to assume that Young is going to be ready to go because past history has shown with that AC joint, it's generally about 2 weeks. And that's why he threw no passes in pregame warmups and that type of thing, although he did throw in practice last week. So I think you have to play it on the side of thinking Young's going to be able to go. But if you put all your eggs in that basket and you haven't prepared for Milroe, and Young does start the game, but maybe he retweaks that shoulder injury, and you hadn't prepared for a running package, then you can find yourself in a bind. So I think Tennessee is going to spend maybe 20-25% of their time preparing for Milroe, but the lion's share of their preparation is going to be for Bryce Young. But yeah, Tennessee's got tremendous confidence, and it's just set up to be a tremendous game.
And real quick, if Milroe goes a lot, I think you might see some Milroe, and they might try to mitigate injury risk with Bryce asking him to play unless he truly is 100%. But if you mitigate risk and you want to run the ball on Tennessee, Tennessee's 11th in the nation in rushing defense, just like Alabama's 8th at 80, both of them right in the mid 80s. So it's not going to be easy sledding trying to heavily run the ball on Tennessee.
No, and you know what, guys, about Tennessee, watching them, I felt like when they played LSU, the road team has the advantage. LSU fans, they're like all fans, but they're extra special. 11 o'clock, you jump on top early like Tennessee did. You take the crowd out of it. LSU crowd was never able to get fully engaged. And in the third quarter, they were pouring out of there. But Tennessee, yeah, and what Tennessee's doing, I think, is that they're believing in themselves, and they're not just going out there and teams aren't, it's not 42 to 35 shootouts every week. They're improving a lot as a team. I think Tennessee has a really good chance, but if Bryce Young plays, I definitely favor Alabama. And again, if he plays, how healthy is he? Again, those doctors know better than anybody, and he knows better. But Jalen Milroe, he's a hell of an athlete. He's fast, all kind of things like that, but he's not Bryce Young. And you saw a great athlete who's fast, talented, Anthony Richardson, go up to Knoxville, his first road game as a starter for the Gators. It was tough. It's not very easy. Doug, another one.
Real quick, don't you think Nick Saban is just relishing a big stage like this to show what he can do?
Oh, yeah. I think this is his kind of game. And you know what? I think everybody drank the Kool-Aid last week going into the A&M game. Nick Saban wasn't going to suit up and play, but I think everybody thought Bryce Young would be the quarterback. I would not have felt that confident had I known, and Jalen Milroe, because he's a freshman. He came in the spring out of Katy, Texas. I would definitely have thought that game would have been, not a blowout, but I didn't have any pretense to think that A&M would win that game.
In the big picture of the SEC, I'm sure we're at break, but it's about time that the long talked about Alabama-Tennessee rivalry actually live up to billing on both sides of the field.
Yeah, no, we're going to go to a break, and we got a few more minutes after that, if you can, because I want to get into that part of it. And rivalries, there are great rivalries in history, but look at Tennessee's rivals with Florida and Alabama and Georgia. And you look at the rise of Tennessee, and then you say, well, how healthy was Georgia at that time? How healthy was Florida? How healthy was Alabama at that time? It's cyclical. That's how this stuff goes. But no matter what program you are, it's hard to maintain it. What Alabama is doing, it's never been done before in the history of college football. You can pull out all the old black and white, movie reels you want about Notre Dame and all, but that's the problem. They're old reels. Right now, college football, it's a different game, Doug. And I agree a minute before the break, but what is it that Tennessee didn't do the last 14 years that they're doing now? They got a coach and an athletic director, and they made a commitment to win.
I felt good about Heupel, but good grief. I mean, with the departures he had, the job he's done, mind blowing.
Yeah. I mean, that's the part of it. And then you look at any program when they have a great run, it's hard to be consistent. Steve Spurrier, 3 straight 11-win seasons. But you know what? The one where they only won 9 games was in 2010 when they went to the SEC championship and lost to Auburn 56-17. And then those next 3 years, 11-11-11 with Lattimore, Jadeveon Clowney, and some Steven Garcia. They had some good players, but it ain't easy to be consistent. We're going to talk about it a few more minutes with Doug Dean, Jimmy Hodge, right after this.
Red River Ford and Toyota, located in Wynne, Arkansas. If you're in the market for a new or used car, truck, or SUV, call, go online, or drop by and see them. Located 45 minutes from Memphis, go off the 4-city exit on I-40 and go north about 15 minutes on Highway 1. Easy to work with and still believe in customer service. If you live out of town, they will deliver your vehicle to you. RedRiverFordToyota.com. Just see what they can do.
Strengthen your seed zone this spring with quality tillage equipment from House Industries. Located in Cherry Valley, Arkansas, House Industries specializes in manufacturing superior equipment that will minimize your downtime and keep you working in the field. To ensure the highest quality control, all design, fabrication, and testing takes place in a 99,000 square foot manufacturing facility located right here in the heart of the Delta. Locate your nearest House equipment dealer online at houseindustriesinc.com.
House Industries, breaking ground.
Sidelines with Rob Browne. Talk sporty to me.
Rob Browne back with Doug Dean, Jimmy Hodge. And Doug, a few more questions before you got to go. You talk about the term, and that I like what Stat Tiger says, commitment to win. And I don't think every school has made the kind of commitment to win that Alabama did with Nick Saban and Georgia did with Kirby Smart. But for the people at Auburn who turned down Kirby Smart when they could have had him, what say you? I mean, come on. They ought to be proud of themselves. Well, we don't want Alabama to win another national championship. What an infomercial. Look up in the press box. Here comes Auburn's incoming coach, going to get his 4th national championship in his tenure there in Alabama, Kirby Smart. And he knows a thing or two about recruiting the state of Georgia and Alabama and Florida. I'm not sure Auburn's coaches know where Georgia is. I mean, and even their own state of Alabama. And that right there, Doug, make a case for how you can screw that up that bad.
Well, I guess I would put it this way, and people will debate on a given prayer. There's no dispute if you take an Alabama, recently a Georgia, that they're a top 1 or 2 football brand. And if you're going purely by financials, there are other schools, Ohio State, more and more Texas, that can stake their claim for those rankings. But in the case of Auburn, historically, financially, draw on TV, iconic players like the 3 Heisman winners and others, Auburn is a football brand that is always should be able to attract an elite head coach. But you look at since Pat Dye, I would give decent marks on the Tuberville hire. He showed a lot of pretty high ceiling what he did at Ole Miss coming off of probation, riverboat gambler brand. So that wasn't bad, as evidenced by 2004 and a couple other good years. But really, since Tuberville, unremarkable. If you buy it, I'm going to argue that Auburn's a top 12 to 15 football brand in some instances, a nudge higher in other cases, metrics maybe a little lower. But we have hired as if we're a football brand in the 30s. We've just made wild guesses, and our strategy was hope. And when the stakes are this high and the competitive balance is what it is, you simply can't afford for hope to be your strategy. I hope that Gus Malzahn will prove to be an elite head coach, and he gave a lot of promise. Fool's gold 2013, but we'll take it. And then I don't need to run through the litany. And Brian Harsin was just a a disaster that was clearly a result of what can follow from a bad presidential hire in Stephen Leaf, extending Gus Malzahn, hiring Alan Green, who was in over his head, nice guy, in over his head. And then we go through a coaching search for Harsin, where you've got a shadow search committee led by, you decide who it was, that wanted Kevin Steele to get an opportunity as a 7-39 head coaching record. So in desperation, Gouge approves Alan Green going rogue, if you will, against the power bases and hiring Brian Harsin as a 12th hour desperation move that wasn't even his idea. Harsin's Birmingham agents called and said, what do you think about this guy? So that's where we are. And to your point, Rob, we better get it right this time because we're falling far behind.
There are no discounts in parachutes, fire extinguishers, brain surgery, and tires. When you put that much money, and you're right about the Auburn brand, it's the 12th winningest football program in college football history. Okay. That's a pretty big deal.
Pretty sporty.
Wall Street Journal ranks the SEC, Texas #1 brand at $1.108 billion, Alabama just over $1 billion. And then you've got Georgia close to $900 million. And then Oklahoma and Auburn, like Auburn's 5th at $872 million. That brand is worth a lot. Okay. It is worth a lot of money. And it's a brand that was built and was great, but you're right.
And Rob, to interject real quick, I had the privilege of hearing a high-ranking on to Victory, the Auburn NIL collective yesterday. And I don't want to go in. It was kind of it wasn't top secret or OPSEC, but I don't want to quote him out of school. But I will say I am of the opinion that, and we're late to the party, but Auburn is getting its act together on NIL. And there's already a commitment, I think $12 to $15 million in that funding, and that they're putting the processes and systems in place that if you hire a promising electric head coach, you get a buzz from that, and you add the NIL strategy to it and portal, there's every reason to hope that Auburn's reclamation project is not 4 or 5 years. It can be 1 to 2 years in this modern market.
Yeah, it absolutely can. Doug, listen, I will say, NIL in the portal, there's so much that goes on. People don't know. A guy gets a big multi-million-dollar deal that you hear about. He's got to hit all kind of benchmarks in that contract. And that's the reality of it. But, you look at Georgia and Alabama in recruiting. If Auburn, if this coaching staff can't take advantage of a year in the state of Alabama with 22 4-stars, 7 5-stars, and they've got how many of those top 10 players committed? 0. I mean, what are you waiting on? I don't want to say it ain't going to happen, but it ain't happening with this staff. Do you keep any from this staff if you make a change? I guess you got to keep somebody, but I mean, as a group, I tell you what it is. Right now, Auburn's rivals are making sure and tell every one of the kids Auburn's recruiting, the guys loving on you and telling you how great you are, ain't going to be there next year, most likely. That doesn't help. Now, everybody can say that about other schools, but when your product on the field looks like this and the numbers, you can't lie. That's why you got to make a change. You got to protect the brand. I don't fault the young men on that football team. They're playing their tails off. But I wonder about Tank Bigsby and Jarquez Hunter for the future of their brand. And for the NFL scouts, Doug, to have some kind of evidence that they can play at a high level. I mean, Tank Bigsby has 347 yards rushing through the first 6 games.
Yeah, the whole idea of and debate of letting a head coach finish his season, okay, but what are there 4 or 5 programs who have cut their coach loose mid-season? And I haven't heard any media outrage, which means if this Sunday after a loss to Ole Miss, it's announced that Harsin is out and they name an interim head coach, God knows who that would be, because Harsin he loaded up most of his buddies on this staff at the high levels. The media may be unkind to Auburn because that's fashionable, it seems like. I don't care. We've never gotten, enough of a fair shake from national media. So the smart play is to just quit caring about that and try to win local messaging and narratives. But I think the reason it's a smart move to clear the decks mid-year. We're not going to go find a way to win 6 or 7 games, get bowl eligible. It's not happening. And the 2 Mississippi schools will create that result. Watch what I'm saying. But the December signing period, and they call it early, it may as well be National Signing Day, because 70 or 80% of the studs will sign in December. And I think you have a far better chance to salvage something with the announcement of a new coaching staff coming in. If they're able to name who that coaching staff is, even better, because that might get you in on some kids that were waffling or that weren't even considering Auburn. And so I lean toward making this public sooner, not later.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. And obviously Matt Rule. I like Dave Aranda, Jeff Grimes. I mean, Jeff Grimes is the offensive coordinator for Dave Aranda, but there's some good coaches out there. But you've got to make. We're
playing one this Saturday, Rob.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, you've got and we're going to be in Knoxville for the Tennessee-Alabama game. I mean, I hate that I'm not going to be there for that one. It certainly isn't because I'm not, there. We have to be up there for the show, but going to be an incredible environment. Doug, look, thank you for being on with us, man. This is great stuff. You're welcome to stay if you can, because we're going to have Franz Beard, GatorBaitMedia.com on here with us, Buddy's partner down there on the Buddy Martin Show and Gator Bait, and continue this roundtable discussion of college football. So, like I say,
and Franz, if I can shout to Franz, there's a lot of us up here that look forward to Auburn people playing Florida again, and so we're cheering you guys on to get back to what you've done historically.
Yeah, I second that emotion, and I think Jimmy does, and all of the free world does. Auburn, Florida needs to be played. It's like it's a natural rival, a border war. Remember, we consider the panhandle of Florida, Franz, to be L.A. As Vegas Tate Davis, my pledge brother from Thomasville, Alabama, says, lower Alabama.
I'm out of here, Rob.
All right, Doug, thank you.
See you guys.
That was great. You bet. Doug
See
Dean,
you,
AU Dose. Jimmy and I are ready to hear your thoughts, your pithy thoughts. We had Ben Troop on here with us yesterday, but just looking at the big picture in the SEC right now, what are your takeaways? East Division, West Division? Is anybody gaining ground on Georgia and Alabama?
Well, the long answer is, yeah, a lot of people are reinforcing what they've got. The short answer is no, not at the moment. Tennessee, I know, is all hyped up about Saturday, and they're going to have a good possibility to win on Saturday. But if Bryce Young plays, that changes the whole dynamic. And right now, we don't know if Bryce Young is going to play. But Alabama is a far different team when he's in there because of his ability to see the whole field and extend plays with his feet. He doesn't have to run, but he, as we saw last year winning the Heisman, he rarely ran, but he was able to extend plays. He moves the pocket, moves his feet, gets outside the tackles, but he's always got his head looking downfield, and he has probably the best vision of the whole field of any quarterback I've seen since Danny Werfel. So I think that it's going to be a really good ball game. But I told somebody last night, it's Alabama. Don't forget, it's Alabama. Nick Saban goes up there. He knows how to prepare a team for the big games because they've been in enough of them. The stage won't be too big for Alabama. The question is going to be, is the stage too big for Tennessee? That's going to be the real question Saturday. They're the one team that's out there that can do it. Jimbo, I think the big Jimbo experiment with Jimbo this, Jimbo that. Matt Hayes kind of wrote a piece about him that says that, hey, Jimbo, you haven't been very good since the days of Jameis Winston. And you look, Jimbo's record right now isn't that much different than the previous coach. Are they making progress? He's had three straight fives. He's had three straight top five classes of recruiting. Why aren't the Aggies better than 3-3 right now? That's the question that everybody's asking.
Well, Jimmy, throw your 2 cents in on this one, but I'll tell you one thing about A&M and the record of Jimbo at this point, 5 years in, halfway through the season compared to Kevin Sumlin. I think Kevin Sumlin had a better record, but Jimmy, let's go.
Well, like I'm going to say ad nauseum, Kevin Sumlin had Johnny Football for 2 years. So that you imagine how it would have been without him.
Who's this ad nauseum fella? What position did he play? Did you know him, Fran? He played for Florida, didn't he?
Florida beat him in 2012, by the way.
Okay. They did.
Yeah, but that was, I think, A&M's first game of the season because a hurricane had knocked out that opener, I think, the week before. And so that was Johnny Football's first.
That was their first game ever in the SEC. Game in the SEC. Yeah.
And it was a competitive game. And just like most SEC games between the elite teams, 2 or 3 plays really were the difference there. But yeah, I mean, it's again, critical that you have a top-notch quarterback. And I've said several times that when Jimbo was an offensive coordinator, man, he did a great job with quarterbacks because he spent all his time working with players at that position as well as being offensive coordinator. But since he's been a head coach, he is, focused on the entire roster. And although he still calls the plays and his fingerprints are all over the offense, he has not been able to develop an elite quarterback other than Jameis Winston. And with Kellen Mond, the guy started over 50 games, but I've said many times, one week he looked great, and then the next week it looked like he'd never practiced before. So inconsistency at the quarterback position has just been a big key. And that's why I think it's so important that this relationship early on between Billy Napier and Anthony Richardson has been so solid, because you can see Richardson gaining confidence every week. And, Franz, coming into that Tennessee game, we had no idea how he was going to react to that environment in Knoxville. And he played great. I mean, but just like any young quarterback who's in his 5th or 6th start at this level, he made some mistakes, but they still piled up 560 yards total offense.
597.
If you've got a talented quarterback with a high ceiling, and you just keep working with him every day and just building his confidence, I mean, that's where you're going to see success down the road. And at A&M, I really just don't see it right now.
No. Well, I don't either, guys. I think the Aggies they're spinning their tires. It's like that mud in North Georgia. If you've ever gotten in that clay mud in North Carolina, in North Georgia, and tried to get your car out, if you've ever experienced that, and I think they got some of that up in North Alabama too. Yeah. It can be, you want to talk about an experience, that's an experience. Oh, yeah. But I think that's where they are.
Yeah. I mean, trust me, I know about this gumbo mud in the Mississippi Delta up here where we duck hunt. If you don't have all-terrain tires and you're not driving like an F-150 or a Toyota Tundra from Red River Ford Toyota in Wynn, Arkansas with all-terrain tires, you're going to be like Jimbo Fisher. That's what we're going to start calling that. Man, I got Jimbo Fisher out there in that field. Let's do this. Let's take a quick break. Great stuff. Jimmy Hodge, Franz Beard, Rob Browne, more sidelines after this.
Red River Ford and Toyota, located in Wynn, Arkansas. If you're in the market for a new or used car, truck, or SUV, call, go online, or drop by and see them. Located 45 minutes from Memphis, go off the 4-city exit on I-40 and go north about 15 minutes on Highway 1. Easy to work with and still believe in customer service. If you live out of town, they will deliver your vehicle to you. RedRiverFordToyota.com. Just see what they can do.
Strengthen your seed zone this spring with quality tillage equipment from House Industries. Located in Cherry Valley, Arkansas, House Industries specializes in manufacturing superior equipment that will minimize your downtime and keep you working in the field. To ensure the highest quality control, all design, fabrication, and testing takes place in a 99,000 square foot manufacturing facility located right here in the heart of the Delta. Locate your nearest House equipment dealer online at houseindustriesinc.com.
House Industries, breaking ground.
Sidelines with Rob Browne. Talk sporty to me.
Rob Browne back again, friends here at GatorBaitMedia.com. All things SEC and college football. Jimmy Hodge up in Knoxville. And want to say another one about one of our sponsors, Gateway Tire and Service Centers. We go the distance for our customers and the communities where we do business. Check them out all over Gateway Tire and Service Center. Also, another one of our favorites, May Veterinary Clinic, Tuscaloosa and Northport. Both locations open. Pick up 3 to 5 p.m. Sunday afternoons if you board your dogs or cats or any other industry of critters that they take care of there. Great folks down there. Dr. Guy May, Dr. Waller May, and their team. They are some of the kindest, best people that you will meet. May Veterinary Clinic, Tuscaloosa, Northport, Alabama, since 1964. Hey, cost is only an issue in the absence of any added value. No matter where you live, it is worth the trip. These people absolutely love what they do. They do what they love. And also, we did a lot of cooking this dairy farm. MJ and Tanner Smith. What a great Cajun name that is from Lake Charles, but we're working on it. Tanner, I mean, I've never had hamburgers this good. There's just another level. You put him and MJ in there together, it's flat and Scruggs good. Mr. Rubs, the white magic, the black magic, great on meat, chicken, fish, the seafood magic, of course, on seafood, anything with seafood, Tommy boy. And of course, the Creole magic, anything that you want to be hot and spicy, Tommy boy. Great stuff. Miss Rubens Rubs. Check them out. They're available at Publix, other grocery stores around the Southeast. Piggly Wiggly. You will love Miss Rubens Rubs, and the marinades are soon to arrive. All right, let's get going again here, friends. Look around the SEC at some of the coaching jobs or, people that are taking a check and doing nothing in return for it. Is there any way we can turn the tide back in the other direction and slow down these ridiculous contracts that basically hold schools hostage? And really, there needs to be accountability for the people that allow these things to happen. I'm talking about thriftless, shiftless university presidents, athletic directors, and agents, all that allow these to happen because they scare people into thinking, well, if you don't give him this big contract, he's going to go. Friends, how about somebody call their bluff and say, go? Good luck.
Well, I think that's what's happening in some places is that they are. And I think a lot of people are waking up to the fact that, anything more than a 5-year contract, we expect results like in 3 to 4 years, and they better have them in 3 to 4 years. And it's getting fewer and fewer now than ever before. But I think the right idea is this: give a guy a 5-year contract. And if he does, I like what where was it that they did this? That where they gave the coach's salary was like $4 million, but $1 million of it a year went into some sort of fund like that could grow, and he got a retention bonus that went within that. So that if the coach quit or fired or whatever, got fired, whatever, he had that already in his pocket. I think things like that are going to be the contracts of the future. I don't blame the coaches on this. Nobody is holding a gun to their heads and saying, here's $11 million, and if you don't take it, boom. Coaches are. I don't see many coaches out there fighting for another $6 million on their contract. I don't see coaches. I don't know how many coaching changes there were. Maybe Lincoln Riley. You could make a case that he took the money and ran with Southern Cal, but for the most part, if it were strictly about the money, I'll give you Billy Napier as an example. He could have been the head coach at Mississippi State, could have been the head coach at Auburn, could have been the head coach at Tennessee, could have been the head coach at South Carolina. 4 places right there. He turned them all down. He came to Florida. Now, he didn't come to Florida because Florida offered more money, because I guarantee you the folks at Tennessee had a Brinks truck ready to back it up and say, we'll take you right now just the way you are. Now, Tennessee ended up with a great coach in Josh Heupel, but it wasn't about the money for Billy. Billy wanted the right fit. He talked about that even yesterday during his press conference. He said, I came here because this was the place that fit. This is the place that fit his personality, that fit his desires and everything like this. He wanted a place where he could build a foundation that would be strong, and kind of like what they've done at Alabama. Alabama's got a great foundation under it. That's why they're so successful, is because they've got the organization. It's been there for years. They've got a foundation that ensures yearly success. And there's not a lot of places that do that. Auburn's biggest problem, I think, and I'm going to weigh in on Auburn right now, and I know it's going to get touchy for Auburn fans. Auburn's biggest problem is Auburn has not built a foundation underneath the coach, so that doesn't matter who the coach is, the foundation is there. And I'm not talking about a money foundation. I'm talking about an infrastructure foundation. You got the facilities, you got the people, the support people, you have the training staff, you've got everything you need to succeed, no matter who the coach is. Now, you want to get a good coach, obviously, and we blame the coach too often. But somebody made a comment Saturday that I resonated with me. We were sitting in there eating, waiting for Florida game to be played, and watching some other games that were on TV and whatever. And somebody made the comment, how many coaches run under that pass and drop it? How many coaches whiff on that edge rusher so their quarterback gets sacked? And he made a great comment. Coaches only do so much, then the kids go out there and it's up to the kids to do it. And some kids don't do it. Some kids do. Some kids, Jimmy, you know this. You're up there in Knoxville right now. And what we talked about earlier, will Tennessee be ready for the moment? We know Alabama's coming up there, and Alabama's got the foundation. The kids are ready. They've got everything ready. Will Tennessee respond accordingly? Good question.
Well, I think that Alabama will be a lot. Well, you can say this for Tennessee too. Tennessee will be a lot more prepared or ready for the moment if Bryce Young isn't able to play. That's such a huge factor. And I mean, it almost starts and ends with that reality on if he's going to be able to go or not. But I do want to reflect on your Auburn comments. I don't think there's a group of people associated with college football that want to win more than the power brokers at Auburn. But the problem is that they've just never been able to get on the same page. And in order to do that, it has to start with the university president, the athletic director, the head coach, and that goes down again to the board of trustees at Auburn. I mean, we all know how powerful they are, and they have to be in alignment. And again, what's happened over the last several years is a classic example of the negative consequences that can take place when they don't have all these figures working in the same direction, and it just really makes things tough. And that's the key to what's happened at this 15-year run with Saban. He said either I'm in control of every aspect of the football operation, or it's a no-go for me.
Yeah, and friends, I want to give you credit. You talked about it. I know about it being up here in Memphis and being in Arkansas a lot, and I absolutely love the natural state. Completely independent, by the way. Oil, natural gas, bauxite, Walmart, J.B. Hunt, chicken fingers, Tyson. They got it all. Warren Stevens, and I'll just say this: you're right. Frank Broyles got everybody together and said, "All right, look, for the good of the Razorbacks, let's all put aside our differences and all row in the same direction, and we can have a marvelous athletic program, the envy of the nation." Top to bottom, they always have one of the best. Their facilities are incredible. But you got to have strong leadership. You think about, all the years Bobby Louder was on the board of trustees at Auburn, strong alpha male leadership. People may not have always agreed, or too hands-on. Well, looking back, out of the rearview mirror, boy, I think Auburn people would give anything to have that kind of leadership, and you've got to have it. Whoever signed off on Stephen Leith becoming the president of Auburn University should be shown the door. Those people involved, those people that turned away Kirby Smart to be the head coach at Auburn should be shown the door. They should have to wear, put their lips over their head and swallow. I mean, come on. There are a lot of people in athletic administration, hangers on, that have got stuff on people, and they're able to keep their positions for seemingly eternity. Show them the door. A good house cleaning doesn't hurt, but what you got to have is a tough group of people in there that are leaders, that will vet people, hire them. And that's for every school. And Alabama has power brokers. So does Georgia. But you got to get everybody rowing. And Jimmy, you're right. I can tell you, the Auburn people want to win so badly. They're losing. They can't sleep at night. I'm just a fan. But I'm gonna tell you what, you got to get an AD in there. You got to get the right coach in there. And friends, you look around every school in the SEC. Lane Kiffin. This guy can flat coach. He can adapt and do whatever it takes. Same thing. Billy Napier is going to be successful at Florida. You know why? Because he's going to outwork people.
Well, Billy's going to be successful. You're right. He's going to outwork people. But the other thing is, Billy is putting the foundation underneath him. He's got the people, the organization. It's kind of like we have this thing called the Gator Made program. I don't know if you've heard about it. I wrote about it last week, which is about life after football. They get these kids in here, and they get kids who don't know how, for example, how to balance a checkbook. Now, everybody has their checkbook on their smartphone, but you still got to know how to balance it. You got to know how much money you got, where it's going, how it's going, etc., like that. They don't know how to get the car insurance, for example. What do I have to do to get my car insured? And so forth. There's a whole list of things that kids come here. They're 17, 18 years old, 19 years old. They've lived at home. Mama's always done everything for them. Now they're on their own. And what am I supposed to do?
Yeah.
And that's part of the foundation that he's in there. A kid who goes to practice worrying about what is my car insurance due? Do I know how to do it? I got 28 parking tickets. What am I supposed to do? Etc. We had a kid in the Dan Mullen era that got arrested because he went up there and he got the tools and he took the boot off of a car. His car he had so many parking tickets that they put a boot on his car, and he went there and took the boot off, and he got arrested for it.
Yeah. Well, at least he has initiative.
Well, exactly. But my
Jimmy would agree. That's a good start.
But my point being, well, we had Tony Joyner, whose car got towed back in the Zook era, and Tony climbed the fence and busted his car. Went out there and it was like a cattle rustler going out there and getting in the corral and freeing all the horses.
Yeah. No, you got to have guys that look. I got a text just now from one of my. I love this guy, the ghost of Hank Williams from Kalijah, Alabama, who says Auburn fans are starved for an established football program, and any coach who brings that to the table and wins year in and year out will be as revered as any in Auburn's illustrious history. That from the ghost of Hank Williams, Lake Martin, Kalijah, Alabama. Poor old Kalijah. He was one of the greatest songs. By the way, Jimmy and friends, is the best stuff that Hank ever wrote, the 1970s stuff, and he's done a lot of great stuff since then. But I'll just say this: you can't beat sitting out on Lake Martin, watching that sun go down, drinking a cold beer or a scotch and water, listening to some Hank. And Hank Sr., by the way, too. That's who I'm talking about here, the ghost of Hank Williams. But anyway.
As Jerry Jeff Walker wrote once, one of his great songs, I feel like Hank Williams tonight.
Yeah, and Jerry Jeff Walker. Now, you talk about the resume for a great country singer, a little time in the joint, if I could just get off of that LA freeway without getting killed or caught. I mean, they just don't write songs like that anymore. But I wish you could play bump music on these shows. I mean, I would love to hear some Jerry Jeff. But I'll say this: you get all the Auburn people united, rowing in the same direction, they're going to quit getting swamped by those big waves at the surf and thrown back up on the shore and scattered up and down the beach for hundreds of yards, paddles and people and gear. You get all the Auburn people united, going in one direction, all the money and the resources, they'd be unstoppable. And that's what Auburn's rivals don't want to see. They want to see Auburn find a way to win some games this year and be foolish enough to keep Browne Harsin. I'm never going to pull for Auburn to lose, but wow. If a dog will bite, he'll do it when he's a pup. And I don't think this group has it in them. You got to get recruiters. You got to get everything. But looking at college football, look what they're doing at Arkansas. They're struggling now, friends. We're going to come back after the break, talk about some of these other schools in the SEC. Mississippi State, Mike Leach. Look at the weird stat there. In the last 3 years, his first year there, they averaged 44 yards rushing a game. The next year, 63 yards. This year, 105. They're 5-1. They got the back half of their schedule is definitely the toughest part of their schedule. But I want to talk about some of these other schools because, again, you look at what the Mississippi schools are doing. If there's one thing they do in Mississippi, damn, they have fun. They're smiling. Fans are at the games looking like they're happy. They're enjoying life. And I think, that's a lot to be said about that. But when you got coaches like Mike Leach and Lane Kiffin, life is not just good. It can be great. More with Jimmy Hodge and Franz Beard and Rob Browne right after this quick commercial break.
Kitchens and bathrooms make a home, and the design teams at Kitchens Unlimited know how to make kitchens and baths. They know it all because they have seen it all. Kitchens Unlimited has been designing and remodeling the Mid-South's kitchens and baths for over 50 years. Check out their showroom at 3550 Summer Avenue or visit them on the web at kitchensunlimited.net.
If you have a crash, dent or ding, go to G.E. Patterson and BBG for Tom Martin's Body Shop.
Come on down to Hewlett & Dunn Boot and Clothing Company, located on Historical Square in Collierville, Tennessee. Hewlett & Dunn is the second largest Filson dealer in the Southeast, stocked with Southern brands you know and trust. And a new inventory arriving all the time. Do yourself or someone you know and love a favor and visit this store. Open Monday through Saturday, 10 a.m. to 5 p.m.
Red River Ford and Toyota, located in Wynne, Arkansas. If you're in the market for a new or used car, truck, or SUV, call, go online, or drop by and see them. Located 45 minutes from Memphis, Go off the 4-City exit on I-40 and go north about 15 minutes on Highway 1. Easy to work with and still believe in customer service. If you live out of town, they will deliver your vehicle to you. RedRiverFordToyota.com. Just see what they can do.
As an agricultural producer, no matter where you farm, minimum tillage is a primary concern each and every season. At House Industries in Cherry Valley, Arkansas, we manufacture equipment to help you maximize efficiency when planting and watering a crop. Pieces like the pulverizer, bedder roller, 3-bar do-all, and bed conditioner assist you in optimizing seedbed preparation and ultimately your bottom line. Visit HouseIndustriesInc.com to locate the dealer nearest you.
House Industries, breaking ground.
Sidelines with Rob Browne. Talk sporty to me.
All right, Rob Browne back here, Franz Beer, Jimmy Hodge. Looking at Arkansas, Franz, from your distance, your viewpoint on the SEC, they've got a coaching staff that I think are 2 top 20 recruiting classes away from being a consistent 8 or 9 win or program, but you got to have depth everywhere. Can y'all remember, Franz, a weekend where Arkansas, they didn't have their starting quarterback and paid dearly on the road at State? Kentucky, Will Levis, Bryce Young, Alabama. Look what happens. It's hard to keep a quality quarterback on the roster, especially with the portal making it so easy to leave. But what do you think about Sam Pittman and the future he has at Arkansas? What's his ceiling?
His ceiling, I think, is at Arkansas is going to be 8-9 wins a year, and that's I think they'll be happier than any 2 clams you ever met if they could get there. You win 8-9 a year, and then do like Kentucky. Kentucky's happy with 7, 8, 9 wins a year, and then maybe every now and then you get a 10-win season, and then maybe, just maybe, you catch lightning in a bottle with the right quarterback at the right time. And this is where it's going to, Sam is going to succeed because Sam's going to have linemen. Okay.
Yep.
It's kind of like Mike Leach is going to succeed at Mississippi State because he's going to have a quarterback and he's going to have people who can catch the football. You got to stay true to what you have as your coaching foundation.
Yeah.
You got coaches that go out there and try to be something or somebody that they aren't, and they are the ones that fail. But you get a coach that's in there that knows what he's got to do and gets it done. Billy Napier is here at Florida, and what is he doing? Florida averages 215 yards a game rushing. They're 3rd in the country in the yards per carry. Pro Football Focus says Florida's offensive line is like the 3rd or 4th best in the entire country. We got 4 guys that rank in their top 150 linemen for carrying out their assignments in the analytics. This is Billy built this team on what he does best. Sam Pittman will build his team on what he does best, which is bringing offensive linemen. I think nobody in the league looks at offensive linemen, sees the potential, knows how to get it out of people like Sam Pittman. Ceiling there, I think, like I said, if they get consistent to 8 to 9 wins a year, they'll be very happy because they know they will catch lightning in a bottle every now and then and have that great season. But the way the SEC is going to change, the dynamic of the SEC, when you add Texas and Oklahoma in there, it's going to be a 16-team league. The scheduling is going to change where it's going to be so that every single team, you will see them home and away at least once every 4 years, both
Correct.
Home and away. I think that you look at how they've done the schedules. Georgia has never been to Aggie land. They've only faced the Aggies once. Georgia has only played Alabama twice in 12 years. How is that? It's just, do you realize Florida will be making its 3rd trip to College Station this year, and the Aggies have come to Florida just once? That's it. So
Yeah.
the scheduling screwed. Mike Leach. They will, if he could stay at Mississippi State longer than Dan Mullen, he'll have a statue out there because he's going to get them to a bowl game every year. He's going to win a bunch of ball games. Okay. They will love them there because those people at Mississippi State are realistic. If we could win an SEC once, we would, goodness, we would declare, the county that Starkville's in, we would declare that a sanctuary county for everybody who ever loved the Bulldogs. Come here and live and enjoy, and you get drunk, you can do whatever you need to do.
There you go.
But they've got a high ceiling. I look over at Ole Miss, and people are saying, well, Lane Kiffin ought to go to Auburn. Lane Kiffin ought to stay right where Lane Kiffin is. They love him there. He can win there. He's got a formula with transfers and everything like that. He made a comment recently that I think says a lot about where his head is. He said, I needed Oxford more than Oxford needed me. His life has changed. He's not the guy that's out there. They're chasing women, getting drunk all the time. He is the guy that he's got his teenage daughter in there with him. And as he said, we had a movie party in here on a Friday night. And he says, I'm sitting there with a dozen teenage girls watching a movie, and enjoying it. Got it. He and his son and a dozen teenage girls watching movies together and eating popcorn. Lane's where he needs to be. It goes back to what we were just talking about, guys. When you get to a place, you got to get your foundation set, and you got to be what you are. Josh Heupel, you look at what he's done at Tennessee, and the reason he's successful, he's being what Josh Heupel. He has not tried to be something that Josh Heupel isn't. He came here, he says, this is what we're going to do. They're doing it. They're not, no excuses. They just got out there, and they've appealed to kids who want to play in that style. Yeah. And the coaches that fail, typically they come in. I question whether, I'm going to make a comment. I question whether Brian Kelly is going to be a consistent winner at LSU. Now, there's no excuse not to be, given all the talent that's in that state. But they don't like him there. They hate him, in fact. They tolerate him if he wins, but they hate him. And the only way he's going to erase the hate is he's going to have to win some national championships, because that's, but he's not one of them. They had the guy that's one of them, and he just, and Ed Orgeron just screwed up the perfect scenario for him. Here he was, a local guy and everything like this. And so he gets a divorce and starts dating 20-year-old girls, and gets pictures of him in pool parties with him.
Yeah, it's rough. Look, friends, listen, we run out of time on this segment. We got Rodney Orr, Tyler Insider, about to join us. But no, you make so many great points. And golly, about that Florida offensive line, Osiris Torrance is just the big guy that came in from Louisiana Lafayette. His
top-rated offensive lineman in the top-rated offensive lineman of any position in the entire country by Pro Football Focus.
Yeah, that's a good one. Yeah, that's a good one to follow, man. Hey, look, we're going to get you back on here again soon, and I appreciate you coming on today. We had some schedule switch-ups and stuff like that. But Franz Beard, GatorbaitMedia.com, folks. He's on the Buddy Martin Show Monday through Thursday nights, 9 p.m. Eastern. Facebook, Twitter, subscribe. It is great show, great content. The Iron Duke, the pride of Gainesville. Now, he's the suburb of Ocala, or Buddy would say the other way around, but love having you on here. Franz is a truth broker. Does this dress make me look fat, honey? Oh yeah. Dumbo couldn't even fit into it. Go ahead.
We are the cultural capital of Alachua County, Florida. right here in Gainesville.
I
You
love
know, so, and we're about to get Ben Sass as our new school president. Senator
Yeah.
Ben Sass is about to become our school president. I understand the liberals are already lining up and saying, "Oh, you can't do that. He don't like us."
Yeah.
But
Well,
you know, I think I think it's a hoot. But you know, like I said, this is the cultural capital of Alachua County, Florida, the home of Tom Petty, who we're celebrating this weekend. And I will leave with this nugget for both of you to just savor. In 1963, Hughes Supply wins the County Midget League Football Championship. Johnny Delaney is our tailback. We're running single wing. Todd Rainsberger at fullback, David Boothby at quarterback, and Dale Davis as the other tailback, and played wing back when we depending on which side we're going. The right tackle, a guy named Tommy Petty. The left tackle, Franz Beard. And we won the county championship undefeated, just stomped everybody. 100-pound weight limit. I was 155 when I graduated high school. Tommy was still 100 pounds, but
the Tom Petty.
Tommy, he was our buddy.
Tommy. Oh, okay. So he really is from Gainesville. I just thought he liked hanging out there.
No, he is from Gainesville, and his first wife was Jane Benyo, and Jane Benyo sat beside me in a class, and I came like that far away from flunking it because I have ADD, and she wore short skirts all the time, and I'd sit there and it was hard to focus. You know, I'm
absolutely
17 years old, and with a wandering mind and everything like that. But yeah, Tommy was the right tackle. We were fierce. We just blew everybody away. They couldn't handle us.
It's a good squad, man. Oh, look, let's just do this again here next week. And great stuff as always with you, friends. I love it. I will talk to you here later today.
Take care, buddy.
All right, you too. Thanks. Man, I tell you what, I did not know. I knew he lived in Gainesville, but he actually was from Gainesville. So Rodney Orr, Tider Insider, does a great show Tuesday nights, 6:30 p.m. Central Greenwich Mean Time. WVUA TV 23. He's on all over the place. Tider Insider, only $48 a year. Be a subscriber to Tider Insider and be a Tider Insider. Rodney, takeaways from the A&M game. No easy games. You better show up. You know that. That's what these coaches tell these guys. I had a really close one Saturday night. Got another big one coming up. My gut feeling, this is what Nick Saban loves because they ain't going to be drinking the rat poison this week. I think these guys are going to be hanging on every word that comes out of his mouth and that assistant coaching staff as well. Yeah, he is, and it's he can't hear you. That's the problem. Yeah, but okay, that link that we sent you via the text, if you could call back on that, that would bring him in on StreamYard connection. That's what it is. This phone system is we're experiencing technical difficulties with it right now, but carry on. Okay, yeah, don't do that. Yeah, and I will say this: everybody people get so caught up in drinking the Kool-Aid. That's a term people use for eating the rat poison, whatever. That Nick Saban was going to beat the pants off of A&M. Well, he doesn't play. He hadn't played in a long time. He's a pretty good player, but he doesn't play. You're talking about a bunch of 18 to 23-year-olds, 24-year-olds, with the virus, probably got guys in their mid and late 20s. Although I go back to Billy Sims, I heard was 25 years old his senior year at Oklahoma, 25, so we say. But anyway, the Alabama without Bryce Young, yeah, they're a different team. Jalen Milroe, I watched him in the spring, freshman out of Katy, Texas. We know can run, but again, look at Anthony Richardson, very athletic, talented, 6'4", 240, runs a 4.4 40. But when he went on his first road game up at Tennessee, he was kind of blown away by it at first, but at the end of the game, he had the Gators one Hail Mary pass away from getting the win. So, if Bryce Young's not ready to go, I got all the confidence in the world, just me as a fan, that Alabama's coaching staff will have Jalen Milroe or whoever the quarterback is ready to go. But 2 turnovers, 2 fumbles, and an interception right before the end of the first half, that'll rattle you. But he stayed with him, Saban did, in Alabama the entire game. And you saw the emotional hugging between him and Bryce Young after the game. That's a Saturday night in the SEC. Very similar to what happened last year. Mississippi State goes to College Station and beats up on A&M. The next week, Alabama comes in. Holy cow, look what happened. Same thing happened this year. State plays in Starkville, beats A&M soundly, and then A&M goes down to the last play against Alabama. We're going to talk about it more after this quick commercial break with Rodney or Tyler Insider, Rob Browne, Jimmy Hodge on Sidelines.
Red River Ford and Toyota, located in Wynne, Arkansas. If you're in the market for a new or used car, truck, or SUV, call, go online, or drop by and see them. Located 45 minutes from Memphis, go off the 4-city exit on I-40 and go north about 15 minutes on Highway 1. Easy to work with and still believe in customer service. If you live out of town, they will deliver your vehicle to you. RedRiverFordToyota.com. Just see what they can do.
Strengthen your seed zone this spring with quality tillage equipment from House Industries. Located in Cherry Valley, Arkansas, House Industries specializes in manufacturing superior equipment that will minimize your downtime and keep you working in the field. To ensure the highest quality control, all design, fabrication, and testing takes place in a 99,000 square foot manufacturing facility located right here in the heart of the Delta. Locate your nearest House equipment dealer online at houseindustriesinc.com.
House Industries, breaking ground.
Sidelines with Rob Browne. Talk sporty to me.
Okay, Rob Browne back with Jimmy Hodge, and Rodney will be on with us here momentarily. Interesting, Jimmy, what we've got here from one of our viewers had just said, someone watching Clarence Beeks. I guess he has the crop reports, but Clarence Beeks, interesting here. When Kirby Smart had his first press conference at Georgia after being introduced to the team, he said, quote, "We need to get bigger and we need to recruit bigger guys," specifically talking about linemen. Well, that's what Alabama does. That's what they do at Georgia. That's what they do at the elite schools. And you wonder, what does it take? It takes great recruiting. And Rodney was talking about with Alabama. Rodney was talking about at Alabama, this team, just the turnovers and different things. You go on the road at Texas and get away with a close win, but that'll pull your team closer together. Jimmy, you come home, you play Texas A&M. That's another tight game, goes down to the last. I think that what this is, I think this Alabama team, I'm getting the feeling they're going up into Knoxville with a lot of confidence. That's what I take. And am I on to something? Because Nick Saban's been here before.
Well, it depends if Bryce Young's going to be able to go at 100%, because I'm sure by now they have a pretty good idea, because Tuesday is the big practice preparation day at the Power 5 level. And if he's involved in a majority of the reps today, that's a really good sign. He's going to be able to go. I mean, Saban even said himself that in the fourth quarter, Bryce was wanting to get back into the game. So evidently, it's just a question of range of motion in that shoulder, if he can make all the throws that he needs to. But it's going to be just as important for that offensive line to do everything possible to make sure he gets hit a minimal number of times. So,
Jimmy, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but you said something earlier in the show this morning about the AC joint with Bryce Young. It's his shoulder, isn't it?
Yeah, and A.J. McCarron, immediately after the injury, said he suffered 2 separate AC joint injuries in the shoulder while he was at Alabama. And
that's what I'm saying. What is AC joint?
Well, it's I'm not an orthopedic surgeon, but
I know. I haven't heard that term. I know about the rotator cuff and the labrum and all these different things. But that's what I'm saying. Rodney, if you're on with us, jump back in. Yeah. Yeah. Well, any kind of shoulder injury, I mean, it's horrible. I mean, you're laying in, if any layman out here like we are, you pull a shoulder muscle, you'll be rolling over in your bed and you get your arm caught in the sheets, and you pull the opposite way and you let out a blood curdling scream. So, Jimmy, again, I wasn't trying to ask you the question as a certified member of the American Orthopedics Board. I was just curious what that term. Can you hear Rodney now? Yeah.
I can't hear Rodney, but I can hear you clearly.
Yeah.
But I got the impression from what AJ said in describing his experience is that how, I guess, serious is the pain, and can you deal with that and then go through your regular throwing motion? I mean, that's just the key to the whole thing. But when Saban first described it, they didn't consider it a serious injury, but it has to be considered a little bit more than minor when you miss a game,
Yeah.
and then you're waiting to get um, another examination from the doctors involved yesterday to determine where things are at this point in time, so that you can get ready for the most important practice day of the week, which is today. So again, this is going to be, I think, just really secretive as far as the Alabama camp is concerned, as far as not allowing any information to get out because you don't want the Tennessee staff to know. And it just sounds like it's going to be a game time decision once again, and then we'll know at that point. But hey, in college football, I mean, it's just constant drama, and this fits in perfectly because Tennessee sees a great opportunity to end this streak that everybody involved with Tennessee football wants to see in the rearview mirror. So again, we'll just have to wait and see until game time comes around.
Yeah, and I think, Jimmy, we've lost Rodney temporarily, but looking at these kinds of games, when I'll say this over and over ad nauseum. We talked about him earlier. Lives down in Geneva, Alabama, down in the Wiregrass. But that is, you're most likely to get mugged in your own driveway. You let your guard down. What Tennessee's got to guard against with Alabama is, look what we just did. If Thursday or Friday they're still talking about that win at LSU, they've got their heads in the wrong places. You've got to be focused on Alabama. Alabama's the road team. They're coming in. They're the ones that are disrupted out of their normal comfort zone. So let's do some quick questions. I'm gonna throw at you. Do you like Alabama's chances with Bryce Young? And you said it earlier that you do. Them coming into this game, they're going to be in that aggressive posture. Tennessee's got to guard against being too comfortable, because that kneeling crowd, we know how loud it's going to be, but you better be focused on the game, not all the stuff going on around you. Would you agree?
Yeah, but I think the Tennessee fans might be overplaying this big victory over LSU, because LSU was the only SEC opponent Tennessee has faced whose quarterback presented no chance to exploit Tennessee's biggest weakness, and that's their secondary, especially the cornerbacks. So Tennessee was able to put a lot of guys in the box. They most likely on every play had a spy on Daniels to just monitor his every movement. And then the other guys on the defensive unit were well aware of where he was, and they made a point to keep him from scrambling too much, to the point that it really caused a problem for their defense. So, they put a lot of guys up in the box, and they covered their receivers man to man. And Daniels is not a good passer. That's just the stone cold truth. And Tennessee, like any good team, took full advantage of it.
All right, who are those two guys that have that show? Audrey and I were watching it last night on SEC Network. The guy with the Pez dispenser hairdo that goes straight up outside the lines. Is that what it's called? They were
thinking out loud.
Thinking out loud. Okay, whatever.
Yeah,
Man,
both those guys are Florida graduates, by the way.
Okay, they are funny. I mean, and I mean, but they're smart. They know football, and they were talking about last night. They were breaking down Tennessee's offensive line versus Alabama's defensive line, Alabama's offensive line versus Tennessee's defensive line. That's a big, obviously, it all starts up front. Who do you like in that? Because we know what Alabama's doing on the edge, and we know what Tennessee's doing stopping the run. You can make an argument either way.
Well, what I would do if I was the Tennessee offensive line is that I would hold on every passing play, because if you can believe this, despite the fact that Alabama has the 3 best speed rushers in college football, Alabama opponents have only been called for holding 2 times through 6 games. And, I can't believe the best speed rushing unit in college football has not been held more than twice all year long. So if I were Tennessee, man, I would hold those guys until the officiating crew calls it. And if they're able to do that, you'll be good.
Let me interrupt you. I don't do it, but I got it now that I can see you, Brother Jimmy. All right, go back. You say Will Anderson has only been held. Offensive linemen have only been called twice this year for holding Will Anderson Jr., the pride of Hampton, Georgia, Dutchtown High School.
Dallas Turner and Chris Braswell, 2 times all year. 2 flags have been thrown against Alabama opponents all year against the Alabama pass rush. Yep.
So, I mean,
and
so
none in the Texas A&M game Saturday.
Yeah,
night.
They're being held. I mean, because basically, an offensive, any official will tell you, if I had eyes on the side of my head and in the back of my head, I'd probably call holding on every play in the games would last 12 hours. But Jimmy,
Alabama has been the most penalized team in the SEC this year. On top of that,
isn't that's what's so strange? I mean, I really want to get our friend Steve Shaw, coordinator of NCAA officials, on the show here, but right now I know that he is busier than probably about anybody employed on staff by the NCAA, because it's college football season. He's the coordinator of officials. But Jimmy, I'm not seeing nearly as many targeting calls. You think the message has gotten through to better, and still you can still knock the heck out of somebody in football, but just do it right. And that's maybe again, Coach Safely has not been around that long, but I'm telling you, their goal is to train 80,000 coaches a year. But something's working, Jimmy. Am I right?
No doubt about it. And also, I think the on-field crew is doing a good job of following the procedure. If they're not sure, they are calling targeting. But what's made things so much better this year is that the replay booth and the conference office are doing a great job correcting original targeting calls that, after looking at replay, it's obvious that it wasn't a targeting call. They've only missed a couple I've seen all year, for the most part, that were clearly not targeting calls, but they stuck with it. And then that Florida-Kentucky game early in the first quarter, when Will Levis almost got his head taken off along with his helmet, how that wasn't targeting, I don't know. They might as well throw that rule away. But for the most part, the officiating crews all over the country have done a great job in the replay booth and in the conference offices in consultation with getting the call right at the end of the day.
Yeah. And again, I don't, I wish at that coachsafely.org dinner, August 22nd in Vestavia Hills at the Country Club, he was at a couple of tables over from me, and I wanted to go over and talk to him, but there were so many people at my table and we were talking, and just that's a hard enough job. But the game of college football, the popularity, it's just getting bigger and bigger and bigger. Where we were in trouble at the end of last season was the games were just dragging on with all these ridiculous reviews and the targeting calls. They've cut way down on that. And I've been to several games this year, go to a lot of games. They go by quickly. And even as much as we thought targeting was in college football, specifically the SEC last year, Steve Shaw reminded us that there was only a targeting call in every 5.23 games played. But again, we're myopic when we look at the Southeastern Conference, and it's a violent collision league, to borrow our good friend Ben Troop's phrase, talking about the NFL, but I apply that to the SEC. But it is making the game, it's also this coach safely, what they're doing, and getting the message about how to tackle. It's going to encourage more young men to play football, isn't it, Jimmy?
Oh yeah, sure. And they make great advances there as far as just discouraging hits that are very marginal from a safety standpoint. And my favorite play nowadays, that because 10 years ago it would have never happened, but anytime a crossing pattern or a post pattern's being thrown, maybe 10, 15 yards down the field. 10 years ago, if a pass was overthrown by a couple of yards and the receiver had absolutely no chance to catch it, but was jumping up or reaching to try to grab it, man, that defensive back saw open season there. Just the easiest chance to just annihilate somebody. And nowadays, when that happens, they don't even think about it because they know there are going to be consequences.
Yeah. Jimmy, we down to the last minute 15 of the show. Great show today. Great insight from all of our guests. You, me, we're having fun with this. I love what I'm seeing in college football. And the intrigue right now with the portal. Look at what Lane Kiffin's doing at Ole Miss. That's one of the best stories in college football. I thought Ole Miss's floor would be 8 wins this year. They're already at 6-0. Yancey Porter does a great job, as does Brad Logan, covering Ole Miss for us here on Sidelines. But give these guys credit for coaching. And every season, a national championship, whatever, you're going to have those games. And Ole Miss had one against Vanderbilt this past Saturday up in Nashville, but they ended up winning 52-28. They were down 21-10. That gets people excited. They just turn it on. But Ole Miss, again, averaging 248 yards rushing. They can flat out coach. Hey, go out and give with the expectation of getting nothing in return. Don't give to get, give to give. And most often we see the face of Christ in the least among us. And folks, happy day after Columbus Day. We live in the greatest country in the world. Be thankful. Again, go out and do things. We are blessed beyond belief. And thanks to all of our listeners like Kicks 96.3, 680 The Fan Podcast Park, and check out our website, sidelines.live. Hey, see you tomorrow. We're out of here.